What's up, nerdlings? How you doing? It is 11:57 here at Site B in sunny Southern California, but it is 8 p.m. on the other side of the world, and we are joined from jolly old London with our friend Ed, who is here today to talk to us about Era Dragonsong, which is being kickstarted right now. It's got 1,252 in backing. He only wanted 616.
Yeah, it's the conversion to dollars is what's got you there. It's £500 and just over £1,000.
Congratulations!
It's just the conversion, but thank you very much.
Hey, 600, 616. That's the Marvel Universe. Ed's Dragonsong is part of the MCU. What? Oh my! How did you manage that? All right, so let me start. Ed, who are you? Where do people know you from, and what have you done before this?
I'm nobody. No one's ever heard of me, and I've probably not done anything terribly important. No, joking aside. Hi, I'm Ed. I'm the lead creator of Shades of Vengeance, and I've been creating tabletop role-playing games for about 10 years now. I also write comics. I write and direct audio dramas. I have even written and directed a movie.
Cool.
I've created card games, miniatures. I'm sure I've done some other stuff as well that's not in that list, but you get the broad idea. I like to create worlds and then bring them to life in the various different ways that any individual story is best told. So if that's audio or a movie or a comic or a role-playing game, so that you can experience the world for yourself, I'm there, I'm doing it, I'm helping you, or I'm telling that story, and that's the thing that I love doing.
Do you have all these on one site, or where people?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Shadesofvengeance.com. Yep, it's all on one site. They're all created by me, and the vast majority of the material is written by me. I have a couple of writers who support me, who lend a hand here and there. But the vast majority is written by me. And Era Dragonsong is my latest game. Oh, you asked what other things I've done. So I was obviously here not that long ago talking about Era the Empowered, the definitive edition, which is going really well. It's actually complete apart from 22 new power trees, which I'm going to be adding to that game. Era Dragonsong is actually a game that I wrote a long time ago, and I'll come to that in a moment. But it was already done when Era the Empowered was running, but I wanted to run it for Witchstarter. I am all over the place. I'm sorry. I'm just very enthusiastic, and as you pointed out, the campaign is going really well. So I've written. This is actually my 12th tabletop role-playing game that I've written. Not including expansions and so on. It's my 12th universe, I guess you could say, that I have explored through a role-playing game. And it's actually the second universe that I explored through a role-playing game, because it's actually the second game I ever ran on my own rule set. I put together a high fantasy version of my sci-fi rule set for a group of friends at work who wanted to have a game. And I ran for, at least 6 months, if not longer. Every week after work, I'd stay behind for, an hour or two, a couple of hours, I guess, and run some games. And this
Nice.
was, the prototype of this was actually that. I say prototype. Not much has really changed in those 10 years, although I've played it a lot more and I've tweaked a few bits and pieces, of course. It felt like it was finally time for me to go, you know what, I can do high fantasy. The number one thing I get asked for at conventions, when obviously you lay out a whole bunch of games in front of someone, you go, what's your favorite genre? And they go, oh, I want a fantasy role-playing game. And you go, oh, I didn't write one of those. So, just no choice whatsoever. I just have to go ahead and publish this now. Okay. So here we are. It's a great game. It's got a unique take on magic, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a minute or two.
That is one of the questions.
Yeah. So, I mean, hopefully that covers your initial 3 questions. Did I cover that?
Yes, I think so.
Awesome.
Hopefully lets people know who you are. All right, so here's my next one, and it's a little weird, but then it's me. A lot of the questions I have, and a lot of the questions people sent me to ask you are, of course, based upon the current environment of the tabletop role-playing game community here in the US. But I don't know what the environment is like over there for you, because the history of tabletop role-playing games in Europe is obviously different than America.
Yep.
Different games became popular at different times. There's games that are over there that we never saw over here. The main thing that is sort of, self-destructed over here is between January with the Wizards of the Coast OGL thing, and then the constant disruption of the OSR and the gaming community eating each other. And now it's everybody backing this game and this game if you don't have this game. So, the tabletop role-playing community here, which is, of course, the barometer is, D&D and how much we love or hate it this day. What is it like there? Did any of the things that happen over here affect gaming over there? Or are you guys just like, doop, 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 still just...
No, absolutely. I mean, the OGL and increasingly, as the internet makes tabletop role-playing a global thing, I've been in the tabletop role-playing game space for about 15 years now. As in aware of the community and how it was going. I've been aware of this stuff going on, but I have definitely noticed that it's much less isolated to one place or another now. And I think that's even true of games in Europe that, have their rise and so on now. It tends to be a lot more global. People hear about it across the world, thanks to the internet and the various people like yourself who reach across the pond and have conversations with people on either side of the pond. I definitely believe that the same sorts of things that you're talking about are what are going on here. And I would recommend to anyone watching who wants to know a little more about what the, I guess, British take on tabletop role-playing games is. There's a fantastic podcast run by a friend of mine, Morris. He's in charge of the N-World Publishing.
Oh yeah, I know those guys.
Morris and PJ, they run a podcast which I've been on a few times as a guest, and they talk a lot about what their perspective is on role-playing games, and I think they're a pretty decent barometer for what's going on, in the minds of the community over here. So if anyone who wants to know about that, strongly recommend that you check that out. Morris's unofficial, RPG podcast.
I listen to them all the time. Yeah. There's usually the first thing I go to for my daily news is them.
They're absolutely brilliant. Morris in particular, very thorough with what he checks out and keeps on top of. Yeah. Really useful if you want to know, what's going on. And like I said, it does have the benefit of being, based in England and run by English people. So you will probably get our take on it pretty well.
Yes. Cool. Because that does lead right into the next question in regards to the European market as opposed to the American market, and especially the American tabletop role-playing game Kickstarter market that isn't, Wizards of the Coast, and we've got the multiple $1 million club members. So a lot of the questions I got asked were basically, why Dragonsong now? Especially with, everybody's jumping on the Adventurer Conqueror King 2nd edition bandwagon. We just had Kelsey and Shadowdark. We've got a couple hundred new OGL heartbreakers. We've got Dr. Gillespie's Dragon Slayer coming up, and everybody's like, why would he release a game? And so why Dragonsong, and why, without sounding like an asshole or trying to be devil's advocate, but why Dragonsong, why now? And how do you think it's just that the market's in Europe is ready for this game? Do you think that the American market's ready for this game? Or is it just, you're just so desperate and excited to get it out that you're just like, I don't care about the fact that, I'm not the internet darling of the moment, which means you might be the internet darling of the moment tomorrow, which is, of course, my hope right here.
But it's much nearer the final one of those. But let me put it to you this way, right? You can be a creator of role-playing games who is trying to make money, right? Or you can be a creator of role-playing games who creates because they want to create. I'm the latter, right? Mm-hmm. I create because I want to, not because the internet says now's the time to do a fantasy game or not because anyone believes that the OGL or the OSR movement liking a particular game. You know what? If you like Adventure Conqueror King, and you're really looking forward to the second edition, good on you. I'm really pleased for you. I'm really happy for you. That's fantastic. It's not for me. I'm not an OGL kind of guy. Era Dragonsong is not an OGL game.
Yeah, I've been kicked out of the OGL.
Sorry, I even meant OSR and I said OGL. I'm sorry. I really struggle with three-letter acronyms. It's just a problem.
Yeah, you've heard my.
It's not an OGL game. It doesn't run on D20. It doesn't approximate the OGL. It's not an OSR game. It's not trying to do what the OSR games are trying to do, which is great and a really valuable thing to be doing. And there's nothing wrong with that at all.
I agree. So,
but OSR is not for me. It's not the way that I want to look at a game. I feel mechanically restricted by the way in which OSR games work, and it's not for me. It's perhaps partially to do with the fact that my first role-playing games were Paranoia and World of Darkness, not Dungeons and Dragons. I grew up within, as it were, I was already quite grown up at that point. But I grew up playing games that were not based on a D20 first, and then I later played Dungeons and Dragons and various others, and I prefer other mechanics. That's cool. That's fine too, right? So, I am ready. Era Dragonsong is ready. And Era Dragonsong is a game that I've enjoyed and played and others have enjoyed for years. And I didn't even consider who else might be running a campaign or who else might be looking for other people's money for a fantasy game at the time. I launched it because I was ready to launch it because, yes, I absolutely am excited. I'm excited about what it brings to the table. And it's not trying to rehash the things that already exist. It's a new take. It's my take. Maybe not entirely new. That would be quite arrogant to claim that it's something that people haven't done before. But it's my take on a fantasy world that is an amalgam. A friend of mine, one of the writers who I referred to earlier, likes to say there are no new stories. There's just recombining bits in your way. And this is me recombining bits of what I think makes the fantasy genre interesting in my way. And, for that, and for someone who wants mechanics that perhaps aren't D20 based and don't require the kind of... For me, it's a bit of my problem with OSR and the OGL is it removes me a bit from the gameplay. I feel a bit more like, oh, right, now I've got to add these things together and figure out what number I need to get.
Yes.
And that removes me. That for me, that removes me from gameplay a bit. I would rather have something like Fate or like Era D10, where having multiple dice and you just look and roughly how well you've done right away before you even count. You've done well or you've done badly immediately.
Yes. West End Games D6, stuff like that, yes.
Yeah, I mean, there are many games that follow this paradigm, I guess. And I prefer that. This is an option for fantasy using a multiple D10 dice pool system. We talked about that at length last time. I'm happy to talk about it again if you want to, but I'm sure that's not really part of your question right now. In short, Era Dragonsong is here because I created it, because I think it's worthy of existing and worthy of being out in the world. And if you don't want it, or you've spent all your money on Adventure Conqueror King, or if you that's fine. That's cool.
Yeah, I totally agree.
If you want to buy it later, that's cool too. That's what you were saying about being the OSR or internet darling of today. Maybe you'll be the internet darling tomorrow. I've never been the internet darling. I don't really ever expect that to happen. We'll see what happens, but
obviously I want the best for
I've not
anybody
been,
out
so
there.
I'm not really thinking it's likely. I'm going to keep creating because I love doing it. And
yeah, I'd much rather have you be the next millionaire than Monty Cook. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
He's made enough.
Yeah. It's but and that's the paradox of creation, because people gravitate towards the thing they already know. The highest grossing Kickstarter board game of all time, at least last time I checked, was a Batman miniatures game. I mean, really? You got the Batman license, you need a Kickstarter. Okay. All right, cool, fine. You're gonna, like, people gravitate towards Alien or I don't know, D&D or whatever, and it's because it's the thing they know, it's safe, and that's the way people tend to behave. That makes it very hard being an indie creator who's not trying to do licenses. It makes it an extremely difficult thing to do, and I read over the Adventure Conqueror King 2 Kickstarter, and you know what? Good on them, because what they really did is they made a thing, and then there were forums going, hey, for years there were forums going, hey, yeah, if you want to do that, it's in here, and so on, and good on them. I'm not saying you have to wait your turn. I don't think it works that way, but I'm really pleased to see someone who has tried to do something that isn't a license making huge amounts of money on Kickstarter.
Yes.
It's not quite the same as say 7th Sea, which again I have no problem with making a lot of money on Kickstarter, but that was a thing that people liked and had the nostalgia factor. And while Adventure Conqueror King might have that as well, people are not buying it because they liked the world that they played in before, because it's got, if I understood right, it's got a lot less of a world. It's more of a framework for you to do your thing. And that's great. Like, I'm really pleased to see that, because that's an indie creator of not exactly the same as me, but very similar thing that they're trying to do to what I'm trying to do. And I'm enthused and really pleased to see that succeeding.
Cool. That was one of the main questions, obviously, but now we can move on to the
answer is, my business sense is really bad, and it's got nothing to do with it. I'm creating because I want to, and I put it on Kickstarter because I was ready to put it on Kickstarter. Also, it was the Witch Starter month for Kickstarter, and I wanted to launch it during that because it was do a project that's related to magic. Now, I have a very, very, very long history on Kickstarter of launching projects that relate to their prompts. This is another one, and I'm sure we're going to talk about magic at some point in this conversation. This is an entirely magic-based world. It seemed appropriate when they were asking for something magic-based that I do a Kickstarter that is magic-based.
Yes. So is that direction we want to go? Because we do have some questions about the magic and the character building here, and some questions about the world. But I wanted to get that one out there because, I have received more than my fair share of finger wagging for not backing Adventure Conqueror King. And obviously, considering the state of the market right now, it is a concern for anybody entering to the Kickstarter pool and having to compete with the $1 Million Club, of how the Twitterverse is going to lift you up or tear you down. So, and obviously, because as I said, the environment in Europe is completely different than the environment here in the US.
How does anyone know whether you've backed it or not, though? Obviously,
I said I wasn't going to back it.
Okay. Well, and that's fair enough. That's
man, I already got, I don't need this.
Again, I agree with you entirely on this. You should buy the games you want to buy, not the games other people pressure you to buy. Right?
And if people don't buy it,
that's not complicated to me. And for anyone listening, that goes for my game as well. You know what? If Era Dragonsong, if Era the Empowered, if Era the Consortium, any of the games I make, if they're not for you, it's fine. Like, I forgive you. I'm not going to yell at you for not buying them.
Yes. If only the rest of the world was like that. Okay, let's completely take a left turn. Obviously, the big thing about Dragonsong is everybody has magic. You have different types of humanoids, because if I call them anything else, apparently, ancestries, heritage, races, whatever they're called.
I call them races. I've used that term for a while.
And each one has different things going from them. So tell us about how is your magic system different? Where does it come from? I guess would be a start. And how does it affect the world of Dragonsong?
So the world of Dragonsong, I'm going to start with that bit because, as I said, I really like universes and I like exploring them. The world of Dragonsong is almost entirely based around magic, right? I think the best example I've been able to give someone so they can picture it is a bit like Harry Potter. You know how the brooms are sweeping on their own and all the rest of it. That's what it's like in the world of Dragonsong. Everyone has magic. Everyone can just use magic to do those menial tasks. You can have anything from construction to household chores done by magic, and obviously they need different levels of focus. Now, the magic system in Dragonsong is incredibly simple. You choose, in fact, if you could just go down very slightly further, the character sheet illustrates it quite nicely. Just a little further. There we go. So from that, you choose purple, which is arcane, or gold, yellow, which is divine. So either you draw your magic from the ambient magic that exists in the world, or you invoke a deity in order to use your magic. And that's the only choice you need to really make around your magic.
Yes.
Beyond that, sorry?
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Beyond that, you put points in your magic skill, which is just a skill like any other. You train in it, you learn it. And for each point you have in your magic skill, you can, starting at the top, build downwards in any number of trees up to the number of points in your magic skill. So you get 4. You could do 2 in the first one, 2 in the second one. That's fine. You just can't cross over to the gold if you're in the purple. If you're arcane, you can't use divine magic. If you're divine, you can't use arcane magic. But you could have, and I don't know how well it'll show on the screen there, but you can have Blood Spike and Blood Link, and then Missile, and then Improve Armor, if that's what you want to do.
I don't think I can make it bigger.
But you can only build downwards, so you have to have the one above it in order to continue to build.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So the level 5 spells, they're extremely powerful. They're by far the most powerful spells in the game. But you sacrifice some breadth to what you can do if you choose to go for those. And the reality is that as you specialize further and further, they are probably going to replace in most cases the one above it. Like you're not going to get very much out of Blood Spike once you have Exsanguinate at the bottom. You're pretty much, you're never going to use that. You'll be using the really big, scary one. There are no limits on you casting magic. You can cast magic every turn if you choose to. Some characters, choose to have lots of magic. Some choose to have very little. Magic is not affected by armor. It's not affected by any of those classic things that D&D do, which, again, nothing against it. It's a way of doing it. Sorry, that was my machine. It makes everyone who is a mage, an unarmored target, I guess, for an enemy who knows what they're doing. You've got the tanky people in front, and then the enemy just fires straight past.
There you go.
You can absolutely be a cleric of a god of magic, but it won't give you the other tree by doing that, because divine magic is still magic. It's just a question of whether you're drawing your power from a deity or from the ambient magic. That's the only difference between the two.
directly or indirectly. Yeah.
Yeah, and I should say there's no mechanical reason why it wouldn't be possible. It just feels like thematically to me there is a difference within the world between people who have a relationship with a deity and people who don't use a deity to draw their magic. It doesn't mean they don't have a relationship with a deity, but it does mean that you know they're relying on their own power, their own skill, more than they are going, you know, invoking their deity to cool down the magic. And that's really a thematic difference. So, you know, as with every game, in my opinion, if you don't like it and you would very much like to have a cleric who can use arcane magic, that can be relaxed. It's not absolutely necessary that you what's the word I'm looking for? It's not absolutely necessary.
Stick to one color.
Observe that. If that doesn't work for you, this game is about playing it your way. I prefer it like that because I feel like it separates the two halves of the party. It makes them different, and it makes a character unique, even if you have, or potentially unique, even if you have more than one of them in the party. So that's my opinion. Then again, there's no like mechanical block on doing it. It's purely a thematic one that I prefer. So that's what's written in the book. Yes, I am also. I mean, it certainly has its place. You know, spell slots have their place. Running out of spells in the middle of battle has its place. I'm not. I appreciate that in the games where it happens. I've even built some games where, or to be more accurate, I've built an expansion where effectively magic, it's psionics, it's a sci-fi game, but it has a price. It doesn't actually have a limit to how often you can use it, but it has a price to using it that is a risk every time you make a roll. And yeah, I mean, I think that if you're going to go ahead and have that, then you know you're again putting limits on who can be spellcasters, because that you have to make spells extremely powerful to balance for the fact that you can just run out of spells, or you have to rest the whole time, which is the point where things start getting a bit metagamey because people are going, right, well, I don't need any health, but my spells have run out, so I'm just going to rest. Okay, and we're 10 meters away from the bad guy, but we can rest here because we're 10 meters away from the bad guy. And people start getting very metagamey, in my experience, you know, when you get players and you put them in that situation. So, you know, this is another way of doing it. I've done multiple different ways of doing magic, including space magic, in my system. This is the first way I ever came up with doing magic. And it's just, yeah, it's intended to be a little different. It's intended to just give different options and a different feel to the world, rather than, as you say, the spell slots, the limitations, the memorization, if you didn't have that going into combat, then you can't have it in that combat. It's just a different slice, really, of looking at magic. And again, it's one of the reasons that I think Dragonsong is a game that deserves to exist. That makes me want to put it out into the world, because I don't think that many people do that. You know, I don't see that around very often.
Yeah, I'm sure there is,
but it's not very prevalent.
Okay, so is it linked to the specific world of Dragonsong, or could I use your system for other worlds? I mean,
there's no reason why you couldn't. To be honest, I wrote this system and then ran a Dungeons and Dragons campaign. That's exactly where it was first used. Obviously, there were some adjustments needed because the magic's a bit different and the world's a bit different. It feels a bit different. So the enemies were a bit refined. But yeah, if you're someone who's an experienced GM like yourself, and you look at the system and go, oh, I like that. Yeah, I'd quite like to use that. I'd like my party to have a go at that. But you know what? I'll grab a Pathfinder module, or I'll grab a D&D thing that someone wrote, or any other fantasy game. Yeah, absolutely.
So since magic is so prevalent and powerful in this world, is there any reason for somebody not to dip into the magic pool? I mean, if I can cast, magic missile unlimited amounts of times. Why should I ever buy a bow?
Bows have different abilities to magic missile. So yeah, you can cast it an unlimited number of times. You can put an element on it even, but you have no kill threshold on a magic missile with any of the elements that you do. So you are incapable of killing anyone outright. You have to damage them down and wear them down. Not unlike magic missile in Dungeons and Dragons, to be honest. Whereas with a bow, if you shoot them and you shoot them in the head, absolutely you can just kill them in one shot sometimes if you get a good roll. And the more dice you have because you're more skilled, the better roll you're going to get. So the answer is no. You absolutely don't have to have a bow. You know, if you want to have some range, and you know you're a divine, or you're you know, there are options for both divine and arcane mages. You absolutely can, but you're spending a skill point in magic rather than boosting something else, and that might mean that you just spend one skill point in magic ever to get that. You're rolling, say, dexterity in magic, so I hope your dexterity is pretty good because you're not going to be rolling very many dice. So it encourages you to focus a little more. But if that's what you want, you know, and you would only spend one in archery anyway, you know.
So if somebody wanted to be, you know, a stereotypical tank or a stereotypical, you know, skill monkey, that's still.
Yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
Something they can do, and they can say, you know, I don't really want any spells.
Yeah, I don't want to put any points in magic. I'm good. I'm fine.
I don't believe things really hard with a sword, right?
I don't believe magic is an honorable way of fighting. That's what one of the players did in one of my games. I just think magic's dishonorable. Like, you guys can use it. Me personally, it's not for me. Here comes my two-handed sword.
Okay, cool. So
it's just a skill like any other, and it can be at 0. There's nothing to stop you doing that.
Okay, so the advantage is, reminds me of certain video games where the more points I put into this means it's less I'm good at something else. I'm really good at healing, but or fishing or whatever, but I sacrificed being really good at fishing for, being really good at driving a car. Kind of like real life. Yeah.
Exactly. Well, and that's the thing, right? At the end of the day, surely this is supposed to approximate real life. You know, I realize that we do point by, and I realize, that we find a way of mechanically explaining it. But ultimately, the characters are supposed to be people, and they might be superhuman people for various reasons. But, there are going to be some things they're bad at and some things they're good at, or they're going to spread their skills really, really thin and be bad at everything, but not terrible. Maybe you've gone ahead and you've studied a little bit of absolutely everything, and you can do a little bit of absolutely everything, which means you're terrible at everything.
Cool. Well, if you ever do any, public plays on Discord, you can invite me, I'm sure. Once I get my copy.
You're very welcome to join our Discord and play any games that you'd like to play. Right now, I have promised that I'm not going to until the end of the campaign.
Cool.
Because one of the rewards is actually that, you get to be one of the first, probably 50 people. I mean, at the moment, I'd say maybe 30 people have ever played this game. Okay. And, there's been a long-running group, and I've all the kinks are worked out. And obviously, it runs on Era D10, so, that has plenty of experience as well. But yeah, one of the rewards is to actually play a session with me, probably remotely on Discord, and get a credit as a playtester, because I think if you're within the first 50 people, that's pretty reasonable.
Cool. Yes. Please back my friend Ed's game if you were looking for something a step away from the nonsense that the OSR OGL has become. And speaking of that, we have a question from 5 days ago from my good friend DM Kurt, who asked, what do you think about the market going forward? Obviously, people are going to have less money. And how do you think this is going to affect big games as opposed to small games? Do you think people are going to gravitate towards your game because it's in smaller games like yours, or just save their money and invest in I've only got X amount of money to spend this year on money, and I'm going to spend it on D&D because I prefer, McDonald's over whatever.
I think that D&D and Pathfinder will reduce their sales, but they will still be the giants by a margin. It all comes back to people buy what they know, and what they know and what they've been told through a very aggressive marketing campaign is D&D is the only game. That's what everything sends as a message. Now, yes, we're having a recession now. Actually, we've had recession-like conditions for a long time. The actual criteria for a recession is so random that you can game the system, as it were, if you're in government, and have a tiny bit of growth, and then you never had a recession because it was huge reduction, tiny bit of growth, huge reduction, tiny bit of growth. You got to be 2 quarters in a row, at least here in the UK, that's the definition. I don't know about in the US, but you've got to have 2 quarters in a row where your economy shrinks. We have not, maybe we've had a recession in the last 3 or 4 years, but like one, which doesn't even close to reflect what the economic situation is really like. So, yes, I think we've been living through this for a while now. I'm not really expecting much to change. People will spend their money on the games that they know and that they believe they already think are the only games or the best games or whatever. People will be shaped by some of the tribalism that is just true on the internet. Adventure Conquer a King being a good example. Like, nothing against it at all, but if you're telling me that people are on Twitter and they're giving you a hard time because you're not backing it, that smacks of tribalism to me. Like, it shouldn't matter. If it's not for you, it's not for you. It doesn't make you a bad person or and shouldn't have any negative take on you. But people will be influenced by those sorts of comments. And I think we will see much the same as what we've seen in the last 5 years. I fully believe that we will continue to see the same thing, which is D&D Pathfinder playing a really smart game with their money in different ways. D&D plays a smart game with their money, but they just have so much money. Pathfinder just play a really smart game with so much less money than Hasbro is willing to throw at D&D. It's hilarious. Like it's that is actually, I realize that it's only speaking relatively, but it's Pathfinder is such an underdog in that relationship. And yet they still do so well. And you know, again, speaking as a perpetual underdog, I'm really pleased for them because it proves that it's possible. And now maybe I'm not that business smart. I'm not that business smart. I'll tell you that for free. But there you are. I'm telling you something for free. That proves I'm not that business smart.
Don't.
They're playing a really smart game and they're doing really well considering everything.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, yeah. There's definitely things to be said about the market, and it's a hobby market, so obviously.
Yeah.
So, what is your favorite thing about the world of Dragonsong, and what is your least favorite thing?
So I love the Archaeopolises. They're these giant floating cities, right? And they have this magical quality to them. Like, they're completely unknown. People can't access them. They're tethered to the ground by these giant chains. I apologize. My machine is just going crazy today. Even if you were to climb these giant chains, you would run into a magical shield. You can't get in.
Yeah. See if you have any. You don't have any pictures of them on your.
No, I don't. But there is actually a video which I put in one of the updates, the second or third update. It was very early on. I'll come to that in a moment, actually, because world building. All the way down.
You're making me work.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Well, it's only 16, so
I talk a lot. There you are, that one. But there's a video there which does have an actual image in it of one of them.
Cool.
in the sky. It's only a sketch. It's sort of underway. I'm waiting for it to be completed. But that particular one's actually a stock image, and it's not the Archaeopolis. It's a little way into the video, but not very far. You might want to hit play if it won't deafen everyone.
In a world of magic.
Oh no! Now you have to listen
one
to me.
thing
I'm sorry.
stands above all.
The
giant chains.
There you go. That's roughly what they look like. So just these giant floating cities, covered in magical energy, and occasionally they fall to the ground. The magic seems to wear out or something, and they fall to the ground. And that's where your dungeons come from in this game. So if you're gonna go on a dungeon crawl, you'll be heading into an Archaeopolis. It might even be one that fell hundreds of years ago and mountains grew over it. But yeah, you'll be heading into an Archaeopolis. I think that's just a captivating idea within the universe, within the world, that really sort of makes people go, oh, okay, like no one knows what's inside them until they fall, and it's different every time. They're not like the same thing over and over. No one knows where they came from. It's said that the dragons can enter them, but they're the only ones that can. And dragons don't exactly hang around to have a chat very often. So, it's that's a rumor, and no one knows how true it is. That's the thing I like most about the world. I just love this concept of, the dungeons aren't even from the races that have existed for all these ages, that they're actually from something else that we don't even know what it is. And it adds that element of mystery to the magic that already exists.
Yeah.
My least favorite thing about the world. Oh, sorry, were you going to say something?
No, yeah, it's like I already got the image of how the Dragonsong movie would open with one of the cities falling. That would be the first image,
Absolutely, it would be. The thing I like least about the world, hate most, like least. I'll go with like least. Hate is a bit strong. I feel like, and really this is because of where it came from, and because I was trying to do a D&D-esque thing for people. I feel like the races that exist, that most of them are sort of pretty obvious. You've got elves and dwarves and fae and orcs and most of them are pretty obvious, like standard fantasy fare. And I was able to throw in a few which are a little different. Locust kin, because why not? They're giant locust people who are just really enthusiastic about everything. Gygans, they're not unique, but they're not often approached in that way. They're actually ogres and giants and so on. They're all one species called Gygans.
So the only thing that difference is height.
No, they're actually all the same. They're just labeled like ogre and troll and giant. Giant might be a more acceptable term for them, but ogre and troll, they're more like terms of
okay, yeah, kind of like in The Walking Dead, where everybody has different names for the dead, even though they're all the same thing. We call them grabbers, right?
Yeah, exactly like that. And it was nice to throw in a few sort of unique things. The Drakir, they're lizard men. I've always loved lizard men. I collected lizard men in Warhammer. What do they call it now? Is it Age of Sigmar now, I think? Anyway, it was long before that. It was just called Warhammer at the time. I always collected lizard men, and I always loved lizard men for some reason. Weird. So, using the Drakir and having the Drakir in here and going, right, well, these are descended from dragons. They're a noble race and they're intelligent. And very. Actually, they have an intelligence bonus. They're more intelligent. The average Drakir is more intelligent than any other than the average of any other race.
I think Kat met the giant folk, but yeah.
Oh, the giants. They're intelligent. All 8 of these races are intelligent. They, so there are only 8 races in the world of intelligent life, and I even wrote an origin myth because I love mythology and I always have. So it's said that the first warrior, Gilgamesh, because why not call him Gilgamesh
Yeah.
if you're going to have the first warrior?
It's public domain.
Sorry?
It's public domain.
Yeah, absolutely. He fought an 8-headed Hydra, known as the World Hydra, and he chopped off each head in turn, and 4 of them fell into pools of water where the light shone, and 4 of them fell into pools of water which were in shadow. And from that arose the 4 light races and the 4 dark races. Now, none of these races are evil. They're all, you have evil people and good people in every race, just like real life. And they're all intelligent. It's just the dark races prefer to be in the dark, and the light races prefer to be in the light. That's literally the only difference. And each race has its own thing, like the Drachia. As I said, they're intelligent. They've got this instinctive knowledge about the world, which is said to be because they're descended from dragons. The dwarves, they're tough. They may be small, but they're very tough and very able to take a lot more wear and tear and damage and keep going for a lot longer. The Gygans are enormous, obviously. The orcs, they're very strong. Their culture is very brutal and punishes the weak. The locust kin, they right. Their endless optimism means that they have a willpower bonus. They're almost impossible to phase and upset. The Fae, they're lucky. They just have more luck than everybody else. And so on and so on and so on. Elves, dexterity, humans, charisma. So humans are not a middle ground with no bonuses or negatives. That's something that's always bothered me a lot. And, I wanted to have... No, you know what? Humans are a unique race in their own right. They've got this thing. What humans do is they build communities. I'm a Star Trek fan. And Enterprise, you can hate it all you like, but it said it really well. Humans entered the galaxy, and what did they do? They built communities in a way that no other race ever had even tried. Other races had conquered, but they'd never tried to build a community or an alliance between people. And I believe that that's a really nice place to start with humans as a thing that they do better than anyone else.
Cool. Well, it sounds great, and I'm hearing a lot of cool original ideas, and or cool takes on original ideas. So, what are your plans? What's the future for Era Dragonsong and the Era game multiverse? Where do you see Era in 6 months, a year, 10 years?
There's always more for me to do. I've already printed, but not yet got round to putting on Kickstarter another game. Which is called Era Dead West. Oh, that's a bit shiny. I don't know if you can see that.
Yeah.
Era Dead West. It's printed. It's done. It's a pocketbook. It's another of our pocketbooks.
Thanks, Cal. That's fine for your world.
Some lizard men in Dragonsong are undoubtedly eaters of humans, and are not very popular for it, I would imagine. So Era Dragonsong in particular, we've already unlocked a stretch goal, which you'll find near the top if you just scroll up a little bit. I'm going to be giving a new type of character, making one of those available. I haven't got around to doing a graphic yet. It sort of happened quickly. But that's it. It's already unlocked. So a fallen angel, they have bonuses for divine magic. They have a reduction of willpower. Because they've been kicked out of heaven, basically, so they have a little bit of a self-esteem issue. They basically act like a ninth race. I didn't feel like they were prevalent enough across the world to really be a race. But anyone who backs the Kickstarter will get all the information they need for a fallen angel. I'm hopeful on the other stretch goal as well. So vampires are not a race. Any race can become a vampire. Think Skyrim. Yeah. You know how you can start and then if you walk into the wrong cave when you're level 3, you turn into a vampire. Not that happened to me. But you know, I thought it'd be really nice to add that as a trait. One of the original players played as a vampire, and at the time, vampire was more of its own race. Before I rethought it and made some decisions around, you know, anyone can become a vampire. So that would be a lot of fun. I'd love to unlock that stretch goal. With this level of interest in Era Dragonsong, I think you know, a proper chunky rulebook is pretty much inevitable at some point. This one's 300 pages long. That's Era the Empowered. That's the game we spoke about before. And I think that's inevitable at some point. But it's quite a lot of time to get one of those done well. So you know, I'd want to do it properly. I've got Dead West, as I mentioned. I've also got a large amount of stuff for Era Dragonsong happening. There are a lot of explanation videos. You know, I'm blessed to know a large number of really talented voice actors, and they're going up on YouTube and also on the updates daily.
Yes, I get the updates daily. Yeah,
right. And it's hey, here's a dwarf. This is what it's like being a dwarf in this world. Here's a dragonkin, or sorry, a drakir. And they were called dragonkin until relatively recently. So forgive me, I'm fighting 10 years. You know, here's a drakir and what they're like. And actually, the wonderful voice actor who played the drakir and the orc said to me, "This is too much fun. Write me a short, and I'll record it with you." So I recorded a short with Erin Lundquist, who did those voices, and also my longtime friend and associate Leo Kosh, who played the dwarf. And awesome. Together, the two of them, or the three of them, I suppose, go adventuring. They have a short adventure. It's about 8 minutes long. Leo's currently working on a bit of an edit for it because you know, we've done the recording, we've done the take selection, and he's gone away to do some editing, some Foley, and so on, to really bring that story to life. And I'm hopeful that we might be able to release it within the Kickstarter even.
Yeah.
We've got 12 days left, so I'm hopeful.
Yeah. Goes live when the final product, when the Kickstarter ends, maybe, or something.
Well, maybe, hopefully a little before, because you never know, someone might listen to it and really like the idea and really want to try out the game. So, you know, that it would be a shame if it was afterwards and the Kickstarter was closed at that point, wouldn't it? So yeah, I mean, we've actually got daily videos coming out. We will continue to have daily videos coming out for the rest of the Kickstarter. I've actually got my sat right in front of me here. There's my list. You might want to freeze frame that. Find out what's coming.
No, I want to be surprised.
And yeah, no, there's just so much to do for you know, and that's just talking about tabletop role-playing games. So I've got some comics going on, which are exploring some of these worlds. I've got an Era survival comic for the zombie apocalypse game. I've just agreed with John, who I wrote. He's the writer I referred to earlier, who likes to say there are no new stories. I wrote a series of 3 comics with him years ago now. And we've just literally the other day agreed that we're going to start work on and see where it goes for another 3 comics set in the sci-fi universe. I've got a comic going on for the Final Fantasy inspired universe. I've got a couple of the superhero comics still ongoing and being finished off. So loads and loads of stuff going on there. And then there's the audio dramas. Obviously, we're doing all of this stuff, but we've also got some really, really cool audio dramas going on. There's a sci-fi one that we've recorded and is just about ready to hit Kickstarter. Actually, there are 3 sci-fi ones that we've recorded and are just about ready to hit Kickstarter. I'm not working hard enough, it turns out.
I was just going to say, in honor of Mrs. Ed, do you think maybe you're spreading yourself too thin?
I'm not working hard enough, it turns out. So who knew? Yeah, no, just loads and loads and loads of stuff. Yeah, it's about bringing universes to life. That's why I do this. And you know, role-playing games are a huge part of that because they let people, you know what, imagine a universe like a house, right? So a comic lets you look in through a window, right? You can see a moment in time in that universe. You can see it and experience it and feel it. And I guess to extend the metaphor, an audio drama is leaning up against the wall and listening. But a role-playing game lets you open the door and walk inside. And how far you explore in that universe then becomes up to you. You can just check out what most people do, check out the immediate stuff on the ground floor. Don't bother really going up any stairs. Just look around a bit and then go, yeah, that was cool. I quite liked that. Maybe I'll go in this house. Maybe I'll go in another one and play another universe. I don't know. But yeah, it was cool. Or you can go into every single room in the house. You can find every single thing that can exist. And this house, hypothetically, is infinite. And it's just an incredible feeling to bring a universe like that to people like yourself or the listeners, to be able to go, hey, you know what? Explore this. Find your way through it. Find your path. It's really valuable to me to be able to do that, and that's why I'm in this. Again, I'm just looking for enough money here that I can justify making more stuff. That's what I'm in it for. That's why the goal's 500. It's not because I'm expecting to make thousands, obviously. I would very much like to be able to make some more stuff. I need a modest amount of money to do that. And that's what this money is used for. It doesn't, I don't make money off this. It's not about making money. It's about making people see things and believe that they can create, certainly in terms of the role-playing games, believe that they can create too, because I think everyone can.
Oh, wow, that's beautiful. Thanks, Ed. Doesn't Mrs. Ed think maybe you're spreading yourself too thin with all these projects?
Mrs. Ed is very used to it. I've been doing it for 10 years, and she is an absolute champ. I would not be able to do this without her. She is very, very understanding. I'll be sat here working away for 6 hours straight, and she'll be like, "Ed, it's time for some food. Can you come and have some food now, please?" Yeah, could not do it without her. She's absolutely amazing.
God bless you, Mrs. Ed.
and she's thanked in the special thanks of every single book for a reason. Yeah.
Great, cool, thanks. Is there anything else you want to tell us before we wind down? Any last, what's your 2-minute 10-second elevator pitch?
Well, I sort of gave you the pitch, but okay, I'll have a go. Here we go. Welcome to a world that is covered with and enveloped by magic, where floating cities fill the skies above your head, where every single moment you have a choice about how you're going to use your magic to change lives around you. I guess that's my 10-second elevator pitch.
Thank you, Ed. Thank you, Cal and Kat and DM Kurt for joining us. Thanks for taking time out of your busy life to share the wonder. Your excitement is contagious, I must say. So hopefully, of the 5 people that are watching this right now, we've got one who will purchase it. If you're interested in Ed and his work, check out him out, shadesofvengeance.com. Kickstarter is linked there. And if you have any questions for Ed, of course, you can always reach out to him directly. And hopefully he hits his goal, and we'll see him again for the next Kickstarter. Thanks, as always, for reaching out to me, Ed. I love talking to you. And my best to you and the family. Happy holidays. And I'll let you go now because it's like, what, midnight there?
No, it's just coming up to 9 o'clock. It's absolutely fine.
Such a backwards country you live in.
Forwards, technically, relative to you.
Have you guys even discovered electricity? All right. Everybody wave goodbye to Ed and Mrs. Ed, and thank Mrs. Ed for letting Ed talk. And we'll talk to Ed again, hopefully, when his next one comes. See y'all later. Get off my land.